Products and Solutions para YouTube en EMEA, que nos va a hablar de lo que la innovación creativa representa en YouTube. Nada.
Look at that. Oh my God. Go, go, go. Oh, no. Check this out. Open the hatch. Oh, it's beautiful. Species sharing one profoundly interconnected world.
Don't let them convince you that you're small, because a lot of small things coming together can do big things.
Love is love is love is love is love. Cannot be killed or swept aside. Now fill the world with music, love, and pride.
Hola, buenos días. Buenos días, yo me llamo Nadav y me encargo de la estrategia y el desarrollo de los productos y soluciones comerciales en YouTube, en IMEA. Es un IMEA, Europa, Medio Oriente y África. Es un gran honor estar con ustedes. Gracias por invitarme en este día histórico político en España. Entonces, la presentación de YouTube y el cambio de gobierno son razones históricas. Soy el último speaker antes del almuerzo, entonces para hacerlo un poco más exciting voy a hablar con su permiso en inglés. Estamos hablando de innovación. We're talking about innovation, and Samsung, the speaker before me, was talking about technology driving innovation. And I want to talk about video. In that element of creativity that is driven by innovation, I want to talk about video. And why do we talk about video? Well, according to Cisco, by 2021, 82% of the traffic on the internet is going to be video. The power of video, which is already out there, is going to be unleashed for people to learn, to educate themselves, to entertain themselves, to share, to participate, all with video, right? And YouTube, which is the company that I represent today here, is already at the heart of video. In fact, 1.8 billion users come to YouTube on a monthly basis, right? And they continue to visit. Who here is from Spain? Most of us are from Spain today? From Spain? From other markets outside of Spain? Okay, so here are some numbers for you. In Spain, YouTube already reaches over 90% of the population on a monthly basis, according to Comscore. Okay, that's a huge reach, a huge opportunity for brands, advertisers to tell stories and reach the populations. That's a lot of people. And one of the questions that I get asked often is, what the heck are all of these people doing on YouTube? Right? What are they doing on YouTube? Why are they there? Why do they come back? So before I go to what's in it for you, I wanted to spend a few minutes to understand what are people doing on YouTube. And we see a few trends. So I'll share a few trends with you. Is that okay? Yes. So let me ask you a question first. Who here has learned something on YouTube? Okay. I see 98% of the hands up. So I'm going to ask you to participate. ¿Qué estudiaste usted en YouTube? Publicidad. No, ¿qué estudiaste usted en YouTube?
Cocina.
Cocinas, ok. Y acá también había una mano. ¿Qué estudiaste usted en YouTube? Le drums, ok. Gente llega a YouTube para estudiar. This is a picture of my son. He's 4 years old here, and he learns the piano, like you, with his private teacher on YouTube. Now this teacher is a YouTube creator that has 100,000 subscribers. Can you imagine a teacher that has 100,000 students? Right? That's the power of YouTube. People come to YouTube to learn, and that's trend number one. And you all do that as well. Another trend that I wanted to share with you, and this is something that YouTube is very well known for, and could be illustrated the best by carpool karaoke. Who watches carpool karaoke? Okay, so about 80% of you know carpool karaoke. For those of you who don't, let's watch the... Can you bring the volume up? Thank you.
Stuck in the traffic. I'm gonna be there. I'm on my way. Stuck in some traffic in downtown LA. Heading to pool karaoke and I missed the way we sang. Watch the sunset over the Hollywood sign.
So carpool karaoke, James Corden, a UK artist that has gotten a slot in the US late nighttime. So his show airs, it's called The Late Late Show, midnight in the US. Now midnight in the US is different than midnight in Spain. I went yesterday, I went out, I was 9 p.m. in England, I live in England. 9 p.m. everybody's like going to sleep. I went out to have dinner. Everybody's outside on the street having drinks. Nobody's ready to eat yet, and I'm hungry, and I felt old. But in the States, 12, midnight, everybody's sleeping. So he got this show, television, huge potential reach, but really hard. So he took an idea that was revolutionary at the time and put the show on YouTube, right? Before every show started, he put this kind of hosting an artist in the car singing together on YouTube. And that was a massive hit. In fact, what James Corden says is that before he checks the night show's ratings on TV, he checks the views on YouTube, because that's how he knows if the show was successful or not. The interesting thing, though, is that singing in the car wasn't invented by James Corden. We have videos of people singing in the car, playing music in the car, uploading themselves to YouTube, doing that years before James Corden was even a thing. I'm going to show you a short clip by an artist called Flula in Germany, singing in the car in Hamburg with his mom and dad. This is real, and this is long before James Corden became a thing.
Hello.
This is mom and dad. You get the point. So we say that YouTube is where niche often becomes mainstream. And we have so many examples. Last year we had the mannequin challenge, remember that? This year we have, does anybody? Yeah? Well, thing, my daughter does this very well, faster than me. So we have so many examples of niche becoming the mainstream through this platform that provides a voice for everybody that wants to participate. So that's the second trend. The third trend is another thing that I found really interesting. So in this adventure park in upstate New York, has anybody seen April the giraffe? This adventure park put a camera on April the giraffe cage. Now, nothing happened. This was live streamed. And everybody was waiting for the giraffe to give birth. She's giving birth here. But before that, for weeks and for days, nothing really happened. And yet, 3.5 million viewers a day joined to see this, right? And they didn't stay for 2 minutes or 3 minutes. They stayed for 30 minutes on the average session. Now why? Well, the interesting thing is not what they saw on screen, and you'll see the giraffe baby come out in a second, but it's not what they saw on screen. The interesting thing is the conversation that happened in the hallways, the conversation that happened in the office spaces, the conversation that happens around this content in the kitchen table, right? So YouTube has become a place that creates social interaction, that creates social conversations. The royal wedding a few weeks ago had 2 billion people watching it. Why? Because it was an interesting show? No, it was boring. But it created a conversation around it. That's the power of YouTube. Fourth and last trend of what people do on YouTube, and there's more, but I've chosen these 4. So we've all seen this example of Professor Kelly giving a talk on the BBC, only to be interrupted by his beautiful, smart, and cute children. Now, classic, right? Now his wife comes in. So this is the classic example. Yeah, I can never talk over this because and it's on mute. So this is a classic example of a moment that happened in the classical. This is a classic example of a moment that happened on the traditional TV space, right? Not a lot of people watched it live because it was about North Korea in a late kind of slot on the BBC that nobody watched. But when it was uploaded to YouTube, 30 million people watched it, right? It became viral. The point here is not that it became viral. The point here is not that he became a star overnight. He got the publicity that he was never hoping for, right? That's not the point. The point is that when the creator community of YouTube got their hands on this, each creator made their own version, their spoof, right? Their own version of this video. And each video reached 1 million views on their own. So let's look at a few examples.
This is a major arrangement for South Korea, who often criticises the North of corruption, and now find themselves in the middle of a massive...
Rebellions happen all the time. The question is, how do the Imperial fleet respond to those rebellions? And what can they do? Let's believe.
And the question is, how do democracies respond to those scandals?
And what will it mean for the wider region? I think one of your children has just walked in. I mean, shifting...
Okay. So yeah, so we salute the creator community on YouTube, and we know that the creator community creates popular culture. And I'm sure it's the same thing in the markets that you represent, in Spain, in Portugal, in Latin America, where creators are becoming the stars, and they're becoming the influencers, and they shape popular culture. So hopefully by now, through these 4 trends, you understand a bit more what people come to YouTube, why they come to watch the content, and what is it that keeps them coming back, right? And what's in it for you? What does this all mean for the branding industry, for the marketing industry, for the creative industry? Most of you are creatives here. Raise your hand if you're in the creative space. Okay, so about 70% of you. What does this mean? Well, we know that the people that come to YouTube, as we saw, are actively engaged with the content. They're not just viewers, they're much more than that. They're viewers that have an emotional connection to what they see. What they see is what creates their identity. What they watch is what allows them to have conversations with their friends and families after they watch it, as we've seen it. And that creates a huge, massive opportunity. The scale is one, the reach, and then the engagement is another. And remember, we live in a world where attention is probably the hardest thing for us as brands, as marketeers to get. People are at a constant lack or attention deficit, right? It's the age of ADHD. We're all lacking the attention. And so what this means for you, and a Nielsen study proves that, is people that pay attention to content, as they do on the platform, they also pay attention to your ads. And we've seen that people pay attention to ads on the YouTube environment twice more than they do on any other social media with videos. So that's a huge opportunity for you, right? Now, partly this attention that people give to ads on YouTube is based on viewability and audibility. Have you heard these terms before? Viewability, audibility? Yes? Yes? Viewability is basically the opportunity to see. And the industry, the digital industry, is not in a good place. The digital industry, the average viewability for video in the digital industry is about 66%. So a lot of the video ads that are shown are actually not viewable. And we're very proud that in YouTube, because YouTube is a video platform, we have a very high viewability. And so attention is partially driven by viewability and by audibility. But we also believe that attention is driven because of the innovation to the consumer experience of how they see ads, and as well as to the innovation and the tools that we provide advertisers and creative agencies and brands on how to present their messages on the platform. And so the question and the main topic for today is, how do you use this innovation as agencies, as creative people, as storytellers, as brands? How do you use that innovation to tell better stories, to engage with your audiences in a way that you couldn't before? And I want to talk to you about that today. There's a lot of data and a lot of science that we've collected over the years. And this is, if anything, a collection of themes that are backed by a lot of data. And there's three things that I wanted to share with you today in a simplified way, but based on a ton of history. So trust me, there's a lot of data behind it, but I'm going to spare you the mathematics and the statistics, and I'm going to tell you three things that we've learned really, really matter. The first thing that matters is screen. The screen matters, right? We've talked about the change and the trends in video consumption and in consumption in general. And in YouTube, we see that 60% of our views are already coming from mobile. 60%, this is a stat across EMEA, across Europe, Middle East, and Africa. 60% of our views already come from the mobile device. And the average session on mobile is 1 hour. Okay? Now think about the creative process of making a video. Let's go back to we have a big idea, we have the storyboard, we go film, we enter into the editing suite, we finish the editing, and then we call in the director, we call in the account executive, we call in the CMO, and where do we watch the copy? On the big screen. We watch the copy on the big screen. But our consumers watch the copy where? On this small screen, right? So I want to ask you all for a favor. Háganme un favor. Saquen el teléfono. Sáquenlo. Okay, they're all outside. Unlock it. Unlock it. Now pass it to the person on your right. Pass your telephone to the person on the right. Okay, you can take it back. You can take it back. You can take it back. How uncomfortable was that? How odd did that feel? Super, no? Why is that? Well, it's because we've grown an emotional connection to this device. It's private. And watching videos on this device is also private. And so what we've seen from data and from many, many analysis is that the creative stories, the ads, the videos, and it doesn't matter if it's a 6-second ad or a 4.5-minute ad like the presenter before me shared. They need to create that emotional, private engagement because people don't watch videos on the big screen anymore. They watch videos like this, right? 10 inches from their face. So I want to share with you a study that our internal lab team, we have a lab that's called the Unskippable Labs team, and they do a lot of studies. And the Unskippable Lab team created 2 videos, one that was made for TV, and one that was made for mobile. So I want to show you both of them, and then we'll get to some conclusions. First one.
Don't you hate it when you just get stuck? You try this, you try that. Nothing seems to work. You ask the internet. Nothing. You ask the internet again, but different. Maybe you even ask an actual human. Nobody seems to know.
How can I get the help I need? I'm stumped.
That's how I was. And then I found the thing.
Looks like a box.
It's not. Well, it is a box, but that's not the thing. It's the thing. And the thing about the thing is it unsticks the stuck no matter how stuck you are.
What?
Of course you do. It's the thing.
That was version 1. Now look at version 2.
Don't you hate it when you just get stuck?
You try this and you try that, but nothing seems to work.
Left,
right,
up,
down.
Nothing.
You ask the internet.
Nothing.
You ask the internet again.
But differently.
Maybe you ask an actual person.
Your peculiar neighbor?
That friendly barista?
Nobody seems to know.
You're stumped.
That's how I was.
Until I found the thing.
Looks like a box.
But it's not.
Well, it is a box. But that's not the thing.
It's the thing.
And the thing about the thing is it unsticks the stuck.
No matter how stuck you are.
Want one?
Of course you do. It's the thing.
The funny thing about this is that after people watch it, they ask me for the thing. There is no thing. It's just an experiment. This is not a product. But which one of the videos do you think worked better in a world where people have attention deficit and 60% of the views come from a mobile device? Second one, right? So there's a few learnings that I wanted to share. Again, this is based on a ton of data, but I'll simplify it to 4. One thing that really matters is pace. You have to go faster. People don't pay attention, people don't have patience. You have to go faster. The normal storyline that worked on TV, where we had 30 seconds and people were glued to the screen because there was nothing else to do, does not work anymore. You have to go faster. Second learning, you have to be bright. Brightness is important. That small screen doesn't have the same emission of light as the big screen. People watch it on the go. People might be watching it in the office. People might be watching it outdoors. If you go with a very dark video, people are not going to be able to grasp the emotional response and the message that you want. Brightness matters. Third learning, zoom. All right, you have to get close and personal. You have to create that personal connection because as you've experienced, your phone is private to you. So by zooming into people, by zooming into objects, you get more out of your videos. And the fourth learning is supers. So if you want to write something, you better make sure that it's big enough, short enough, and concise to bring the message across. So these are 4 learnings, and devices matter. And the first device that we talked about is the mobile device. But there's new devices coming. And it's really interesting to see how virtual reality is evolving. The Samsung presentation also referred to virtual reality. So an interesting stat, until now there were 10 million virtual device headsets that were sold in EMEA, globally. IDC predicts that by 2020 we will be selling 99 million headsets. Now this will create a huge scale opportunity to reach consumers, right? This is big numbers. And I'm delighted to see creators and storytellers and brands start to experiment with this capability. VR could create an immersive experience, and in the world of attention deficit, this experience can change your emotional connection to whatever the story is, to whatever the brand is. So this is an interesting space, and I would really encourage you to start experimenting it. And the other one is augmented reality, right? Augmented reality has been here for a while, but now with the smart capabilities of TVs, the better screens, we're seeing some tremendous evolution in the augmented reality space. And again, in the world of attention deficit, this experience, which is an augmented reality experience, has a potential to create a really strong emotional connection. Let's watch this example.
Jedi AR stickers, only on the Google Pixel camera.
So this is called the AR stickers, augmented reality stickers. It's available on Pixel devices, but this type of technology exists in other devices as well. And in Ad Week this year, it was really interesting to see the quote that they used, because they said that this creates an emotionally powerful, empathetic experience, and this can create a lasting memory for the brand that's using it, in this case, Star Wars. So devices matter. That's the first chapter. Devices matter. Screens matter. The second chapter is something that most of you will say, well, of course. But people matter, right? People matter. For years, and to be honest, still today, the proxy for people was age and gender. We use demographics to decide what type of message we'll give to male 28 to 24. Does that resonate when you get a brief from your clients? You get that male 18 to 24, women 35 to 44. That's how we describe a people. But people are beyond that, right? People are much more complex. People are much more rich. And the good news is that today we have enough signals to be able to use so that we can tailor the messages better. In Google, we have 7 platforms, each with over 1 billion users. So the richness of signals that we get from them, connected, combined, really allows advertisers to segment the population. No longer do we have to rely on age and gender. We can understand what people are interested about. We can understand what people want, or even what they will want, and then tailor the messages accordingly. So this year we launched Advanced Audiences. Advanced Audiences is basically a capability to get signals from Maps, Search, YouTube, Google Play, and combined use it for targeting. And it works, right? Advanced Audiences, so the campaigns that we've seen that use Advanced Audiences have seen a higher ad recall of 20% versus campaigns that use regular demographics, right? And they've seen a 50% increase in brand awareness versus regular demographics. So this is a huge multiplier for you to tell stories, but tailoring the story to the audience in a much smarter way. Now, let's take a few examples. Parental stages. So if I'm Procter & Gamble, and I have the ability to talk to a mother that has a child which is 4 months old in a different way, I can identify them, versus a mother that has a child 3 years old. How stronger, how much more specific can I tell the story now to that mother? Right? Parental stages. Or life events. If I'm IKEA, okay? And I have the ability to identify people that are about to move houses. What a great audience for me that would be, right? All these capabilities exist already. Consumer patterns. If I'm a retailer, and I can identify people that usually buy online versus people that usually buy offline, right? How can I tailor my marketing messages and my call to action depending on the people, the consumer's preferences? All of these capabilities exist, and they enable you to target audiences and tailor the stories. I wanted to show you how that could look like. So when Netflix launched Narcos, anybody seen Narcos? Of course, Pablo Escobar. And so when Netflix launched Narcos, they decided to identify different audiences and tailor the ad to the different audience. Very slight tweaks, but very impactful results. So we're going to see 2 examples of that. One message tailored to a business-oriented audience, and one message tailored to a sports-oriented audience. I invite you to read the captions. Let's watch the first one. Sports. So the impact that this tailored creative had was tremendous. And we're building tools now to help creatives make those tweaks in a very easily and scalable way, right? So we said that screen matters. We said that Help me? People. People, yes, somebody's listening, thank you. So we said that people matter. And the third thing that matters is the story. We know that 50 to 70% of a campaign's ROI is related and correlated to the actual story, right? So story is really, really important. And we at Google, we think that we can create formats and add products for you to be able to tell the story better, right? I really like this model because you think of bite, snack, meal. I translated it yesterday to Spanish according to the restaurant that I was. You can say pinchos, tapas, y cena, right? So pinchos, tapas, cena, that's the model. And what it really empowers you to do is to think about the different connections that you want to have with the consumer in different paths of the journey, right? Maybe you have a product that's about to launch, you want to tease, and then when it launches, you want to really give a long story. So maybe the product decides the journey, or maybe the user decides the journey. Somebody that's unaware of the product, you want to give them a few pinchos, right? And then when he's more aware of the product, you want to give him the cena, the full 4.5-minute video. So we've seen this array of advertising capabilities, this diversity of portfolio, empower creative storytellers to tell better stories. And the first one is the pincho, right? The bumper ads. So bumper ad is a 6-second ad. Has anybody here used bumper ads? Created bumper ads? Yes. Those of you love hands in the air. 6-second ads. Very powerful, but short. In a world where we have an attention deficit, and in a world which everything is mobile, this is a very good way to get attention, right? So let's see how Mango did it in Spain. So they obviously decided to use it as a teaser, right? There's not a lot of content here. There's bumpers that have a whole story arc in 6 seconds. This one is a teaser. And the interesting thing is that in 9 out of 10 campaigns, even these 6-second ads have a tremendous brand lift, have a tremendous impact on the brand results, right? So bumpers, great example of how to use and grab attention in 6 seconds. And I love this quote by the L'Oreal CMO who says that bumpers are long enough to tell a story, but short enough not to be skipped, right? And it's that balance that creates bumpers as an interesting proposition. But beyond bumpers, we've seen a lot of advertisers really embrace the long formats on YouTube. TrueView, the skippable format, has allowed advertisers to go beyond the 30-second mark. Really explore advertising that is 1 minute long, 2 minute long, sometimes an hour long, but giving the option to the user because he has the power anyway. That's the insight. The viewer has the power anyway, so give him the option to skip, opt in or opt out. And I'm really happy to announce today that we're expanding the TrueView family. We want to be able to help you make every marketing objective work for you, whether it's reach, whether it's engagement, whether it's brand lift, whether you want to drive a website action, or even if you want to drive to shopping in store, online. We're expanding the skippable TrueView family to be able to attend to any marketing objective that you have. We'll have the machine learning capabilities of Google do the work for you and optimize to the KPI of the campaign. So I invite you to use the extended family of TrueView based on the new kind of stories that you want to tell, using the understanding and the insight that the user has the choice. But if you tell a good story, you can drive the action that is needed. And we're not going to stop there. Again, one thing that I'm happy to share to you today in El Sol is that we want to innovate further. And one example is that in 2018, in the second half of 2018, we want to try to do something with location extensions. So think about a user that watches an ad, and we want to help that consumer get to a place, so we can help him get directions to the nearest shop that is selling that product. Or maybe he wants to get reviews, or maybe he wants to call the business. So all of these things will be enabled, and when they arrive, we'll be happy to allow you to test them and provide feedback so we can get it right. So a lot of excitement around the TrueView family and the skippable offer. And I think what it drives us to understand is that we need to start rethinking about the traditional story arc. Think about the traditional story arc. You guys, most of you guys said you're in the creative industry. So you start with a build, you have a climax, and then a resolution which reveals the brand at the end. That's how TV commercials have been made. But today, in this world of attention deficit, in the world where people are on the go, people are on their mobile device, you have to rethink the story arc. And what we've seen from a lot of data is that the new active, we call it, the new emerging or active story arc works better for ads in this environment, right? So it starts fast. You have to grab people's attention in the first 5 seconds. Think about that. And then you have to introduce your brand early, not late, because otherwise people are likely not to see it. They have to understand what brand you're talking about. And then you can have that resolution, and you have to have multiple peaks to allow people to take action. So it's changing paradigm in the creative industry, but it's really interesting to see some of the industry already moving to this direction with great results. So a few questions that I want to leave you with. One, even in a longer ad, how do you grab attention in the first 5 seconds? How do you make people not skip? An example. And now the ad begins. Right? That's one question. The second question that I said, you have to introduce your brand early, but you have to do it in a very natural way. How do you do that? That's a question for you to think about as you get your next brief.
You're acting so funny. What's wrong, Billy?
My doctor says I have Skittles pox.
Are they contagious?
I don't think so.
Contract the rainbow. Taste the rainbow.
You saw that. Skittles as a brand is still displayed at the end, but it was mentioned cleverly in the beginning, right? And then the third question is, how do you use all this innovation? How do you use the technology to drive action, if action is what you want? And this is an example of a company called Lemonade, which is an insurance company in the US, and they very intelligently use the canvas that we provide, the ad format, to drive a conversion from the actual video itself. And there's plenty of things that you can do with the ad formats to help you drive action. Now, we've talked about the story arc, and we've talked about the different formats, the short ones, the bichos, the tapas, the cena, and we think that the future of advertising is a combination. It shouldn't be about one format and frequency. It should be about a sequential story that we tell our consumers, depending on their preferences, depending on their viewing habits, and what indications they give us about their interest about the product that we're trying to market. So we recently launched as a test a product called video ad sequencing, which allows you to do that exactly. So imagine we give everybody a first video. I call it the seed video. Some people will skip it and say, I'm not interested. Some people will view it. Then we create a different journey for those people. Maybe the person that's not interested, we can give him another reminder. Maybe he will be interested through a bumper ad. Maybe the person who has provided interest, watched the video, maybe he can get a deeper level of understanding now about the product with a 4.5-minute video, right? So we can create those stories, and they can be tailored individually. And I invite you to use video ad sequencing as a trial. We've seen a great test by a gaming company called Ubisoft. And Ubisoft did exactly that. They showed a video with a game. Some people were interested, some people were not. And they created multiple versions of parts of the game depending on the signals that they got from the viewers. And so it ended up by, identifying people that are really not going to buy this game, people that are really into it in the first place because they're gamers and they might be even into Assassin's Creed in the get-go, so they got much more deeper, and people that needed to be convinced to come to the product, right? And the results were phenomenal. At the end of this campaign, because of this tailoring, This company saw 375% increase in their searches, right? So it raised the awareness of the product entirely by 25%. And that's a great testament of the fact that this video ad sequencing, this tailoring, this attention to the user, this customer centricity is what is driving the advertising industry to the future. So I want to close and leave time for questions because I'm really interested to hear what you have to say. Y me pueden preguntar en español. Voy a intentar de entender. But I think the summary is that really we do live in a world of attention deficit. This is the definition of what we see every day on the signals and data that we get. The good news is that people that come to watch YouTube are more than just viewers. As we said in the beginning, they come because they have a deep connection to the content. They come because the content allows them to have social interaction. And they're massively engaged. And that engagement, plus the reach, creates a huge opportunity for advertisers to tell stories. And what we saw through the presentation is that there's 3 big things that you can think about that really matter and could really make an impact to the way you tell stories. First thing that matters was screens. The second thing was people, and thinking about how to tailor the messages specifically to different people. And the third thing was stories. Thank you very much for listening, and I'm very hoping to get questions. ¿Preguntas? Sí. Yes. La primera es siempre la más difícil.
Well, you mentioned that, and you were talking that 90% of the people in Spain, 90% of the people in Spain are watching YouTube. I keep talking to clients and they think that only like young people are watching YouTube. So can you give any additional information about the watching of YouTube, differences between different targets?
Yeah. So very good question. So the question was, who's watching YouTube in terms of demographics? And I think you're right. In 2007, when YouTube emerged, it was, cats on skateboards and a lot of user-generated content, which then produced a demographic of very young people. Today, what we're seeing across Europe, and you don't have to believe me, you can go to ComScore and look at the data in ComScore in Spain or in any other market, is that we have demographics across the board. We're obviously, the younger demographic has completely left the traditional space, the TV, and they're all online on YouTube. But even older demographics are watching YouTube on a continuous basis. I don't have the exact numbers for Spain in my head, but I do invite you to talk with myself and my colleague Mariana from the Spanish office to learn about the specific demographic in Spain. Or, don't take my word for it, go to ComScore and see there's a huge penetration across the whole population of the Spanish market.
60% of all ages?
60% of all ages.
60% from 18 to 64? No, I mean, I know the demographics, if there was any additional information about, more about the habits of more interesting trends on other ages or something.
So, look, there's interesting things that are happening, right? So we're seeing YouTube creators become TV stars, and we're seeing TV stars become YouTube stars. And so that cross of content comes to life because of the cross of demographics and interests. So we're seeing all content, as I said, the royal wedding was on YouTube with 2 billion users. And we see people watch the news on YouTube, and we see people watch entertainment of traditional shows that are uploaded to YouTube, as well as different trends, as somebody here said, cooking. And so we see different viewing trends for the entire spectrum of the population. But the point is, everybody's here. Yes, thank you for the question. Yes, sir.
¿Español en inglés?
Como quieras.
I'm actually working director for a brand named Barbadillo, and number 1 white wine selling in Spain.
Sorry, number 1 white
wine? White wine, yeah, in Spain.
Wine, okay.
When enjoy it, you're invited to come to
Tenemos que hablar después.
Yeah.
Voy a comprar cajas.
Pues venga, entonces en español. Nosotros invertimos regularmente, tenemos una inversión mensual en TrueView en 2 formatos. Uno es videocatas y otro es una serie de ficción, que es una sitcom que hemos creado para YouTube. y está ligada a una acción de inbound marketing que incluye premios y que genera una base de datos, ¿no? Y estamos haciendo pruebas continuamente para ver...
Lento. Más lento, por favor.
Estamos haciendo pruebas para ver cómo tenemos más engagement, más links, más clics hacia la web donde está el resto de la serie y también los premios y regalos de la acción de inbound marketing, ¿no? Hemos probado últimamente a meter en mitad de los spots meter una llamada diciendo espera hasta el final para conseguir los regalos, pero me interesa mucho ser estos nuevos cambios si hay call to actions previstos diferentes a los que había en los nuevos formatos de TrueView.
Yes, thank you for the question. We have a great opportunity for you, and that's exactly the type of actions that I was referring to. We think in general, what we see is that a lot of the typical advertisers that use YouTube actually want to drive a conversion, website visits, an online purchase, a lead generation. And up until now, I think the video industry online hasn't really provided the tools to do that. Now, with new formats such as TrueView for Action or TrueView for Shopping, we're really excited about the opportunity of helping you get those actions. So you don't have to wait until the end for the click. You can create the call for actions in the beginning already. And I would really invite you to try those formats. Action formats will also come to bumpers by the end of the year. And the combination of tailoring the target audience with the new audience signals that I talked about and creating a call for action with the new format that I was talking about, we've seen has a tremendous impact on performance advertisers. So we have a lot of case studies already. And if you haven't already, I invite you to talk with your point of contact in Google Spain to start experimenting these new formats, because that's exactly the objective, drive the conversion faster. Thank you for the question.
Hello, I wanted to address, I guess it's a question you've been asked before, the scandal with Logan Paul in his trip to Japan when he filmed the video with the Japanese who suicided himself. And if you can address brand safety and how YouTube thinks about it.
Yeah. Mariana warned me that there's not going to be any questions at all, but there's good questions, interesting questions, and challenging questions. So let's talk about brand safety. We look at brand safety and we care about the safety of the content on the platform very, very seriously. I think in the beginning of 2017, this whole topic got heightened scrutiny. And I'm happy to say that I'm really happy to see how our organization reacted. We've done a tremendous amount of things, from looking at our policy to really define what type of content is allowed on the platform. So a few examples of what we did there. From talking generally about hatred, so we don't allow any hatred videos on the platform, to specifically defining what that is. Discriminatory, prejudice, really going into specifics. So we've made a lot of changes to our policy. We've also made a lot of changes to our enforcement. And that cuts across two different areas. One is technology, right? So because of the scale of YouTube, there's about 500 hours of new video that is being uploaded every minute to YouTube. I don't know how many minutes have I been speaking here, but you can imagine how much video is coming into the platform. So that scale requires us to think about a scalable technology to identify any misuse of the platform, right? And so we've been working very hard with a large group of engineers that have been investing time and resource to creating AI to identify content that is not suitable for the platform or not suitable for advertising. So AI and technology is one part of investment. The other investment is of people. So over the course of the past 8 months, we've ramped up and recruited 10,000 people to work for YouTube to help identify and review content that is questionable and help the machines or make the decisions that machines can't on taking down content quickly. And in fact, in the recent transparency report that we shared with the industry, we've seen that 81% of the 8 million videos that have been taken down automatically through the AI capabilities. So 8 million videos have been taken down. 81% of them have been done automatically, and the rest have been taken down through this manual review process. So we've gone a long way. 8 million sounds like a big number of videos, and it is, but in comparison to the corpus of videos that we have, it's tiny. The truth is that YouTube is a mirror of society. Yeah? And in society we see all the good, and we've seen a lot of the good in the opening video. We've seen a lot, we see a lot of the teachers and the entertainers and the good that comes on YouTube. But like in society, we also see the bad. And we're very committed to working with industry bodies, with associations and NGOs that specialize, that are subject matter experts in things like child exploitation, sexual suggestiveness, violence, terrorism, so that they can help us identify what sometimes even our machines don't know how to identify. These things are sometimes difficult and they're subtle, right? But we're getting much better at identifying them at scale. And frankly, I'm very proud of the progress that we've made as an industry and the progress that we've made as YouTube to quickly identify these type of videos, take them down, and take action against the people that are perpetrators and take a bad use of our platform. Thanks for the question.
Thank you very much for the extensive answer.
Yeah. I think I have time for one more, according to the clock, if there's any others. Muchas gracias.